You already know something is wrong. You work hard, you're not lazy, you do the responsible things, you pay your bills, you show up, you try to save, and yet every single year it feels like you're running faster just to stay in the same place. Prices go up, your salary goes up, your savings barely move. And the gap between where you are and where you thought you would be by now keeps quietly widening. You don't need someone to tell you the system is broken. You feel it every time you check your bank balance. What you need, what nobody is actually giving you, is a way out that doesn't involve quitting your job and moving to a beach in Mexico. Today, that's exactly what we are going to talk about. For those new here, I'm Muzaffar Teja, qualified accountant, a former investment banker, and your guide to cutting through the noise of finance. On this channel, we don't just talk about money, we talk about owning your life. Think personal finance systems, self-development frameworks, wealth building mindsets, and investment strategies that actually work. If that's your vibe, hit subscribe and ring the bell. We drop game-changing content every week. Now, I want to start with something that happened in 1970s because this is where the story really begins and most people have no idea. In 1971, a man named Lewis Powell, a corporate lawyer who would later become a Supreme Court justice, wrote a confidential memo to the US Chamber of Commerce. The Powell memo, as it became known, was essentially a battle plan. It argued that American business was under threat from workers, from consumers, from universities, from politicians, and that corporations needed to start fighting back systematically. What followed was a 50 years restructuring of the economic landscape that most ordinary people never saw coming because it didn't happen overnight. It happened in small, quiet, incremental shifts. Here is what those shifts actually looked like in practice. In the mid-1970s, defined benefit pensions, the kind where your employer promises you a guaranteed income for life after retirement, started disappearing. They were replaced with something called 401k in America or a defined contribution scheme in the UK. On the surface, it sounded like an upgrade. You get to control your own retirement. Great. Except here is what nobody explained clearly. You also absorb all the risk. Your retirement is now entirely dependent on your financial literacy, market performance, and your ability to consistently contribute while living in an increasingly expensive world. The risk was transferred from corporations onto individuals, and it was marketed to us as personal empowerment. In the 1980s, something else happened. Productivity, the amount of economic output generated per worker, went up dramatically. Workers were producing more, companies were making more money, but wages didn't follow. From 1979 to 2020, productivity in United States grew by 61%. Wages, they grew up by 17.5%. The gap, 43 percentage points, went somewhere. It went to shareholders, it went to executive pay, it went to corporate profit, and the worker who created that productivity, they were handed a credit card to make up the difference. That's not an accident, that was a policy choice. By the 1990s, the housing market started changing in ways that wouldn't become obvious for another decade. Homes were always meant to be places to live. Then they became financial instruments, assets to be leveraged, traded, and financialized. Institutional investors started buying residential housing at scale. By the time we hit 2023, companies like Invitation Homes owned over 80,000 single-family homes across America. You weren't just competing against other families when you tried to buy a house. You were competing against trillion-dollar balance sheets with access to cheap debt. And you still wonder why you can't get on the property ladder. I'm not telling you this to make you angry. I'm telling you this because here is the thing about understanding a rigged system. It actually frees you. Once you understand the rules of the game that's being played, you stop blaming yourself for losing. And more importantly, you stop trying to win a game that wasn't designed for you to win in the first place. You start building a different one. So let's talk about what that actually looks like, because this is where most conversations stop. They diagnose the problem, they leave you feeling helpless, and they sign off. Not here. Here's the practical architecture of how ordinary people, single-income households, people with no inheritance, no rich uncle, no windfall, actually start to escape the trap. The first thing to understand is what Morgan Housel wrote in his 2022 book, The Psychology of Money. Housel spent years studying how people build and lose wealth, and he arrived at something deceptively simple. He said, wealth is what you don't see. Think about that for a second. We live in a culture that equates spending with success. The nice car, the holidays on Instagram, the restaurant meals, the branded clothes, all of that is consumption masquerading as wealth. Real wealth, Housel argues, is the money you didn't spend. It's the option, the flexibility, the buffer that lets you say no to things, take a chance, or survive a crisis. Most people have no buffer, not because they don't earn enough, but because every pay rise gets absorbed into a lifestyle upgrade before the money even settles. Behavioral economists call this lifestyle inflation, and it is the single biggest wealth destroyer in the middle class. Not the system, not the politician, you choosing the nice car every time you get a raise. Now, before you think I'm about to tell you to cut your lattes, I'm not. This isn't about deprivation, it's about sequencing. There is a concept in financial planning called pay yourself first, and it's been around since George Clason wrote The Richest Man in Babylon in 1926. Clason framed it as a simple law. Before you pay rent, before you buy groceries, before you spend a single penny on anything, set aside a portion of your income for yourself. Not for a bill, not for a subscription, for your future self. The exact percentage matters less than the habit. Even 10% automated on payday before you can touch it starts building something that wasn't there before. The key word is automated. Don't rely on willpower. Willpower runs out. Systems don't. But saving alone doesn't build wealth. And this is where so many people get stuck. They save a bit, they feel responsible, and they think that's the job done. It isn't. Because money sitting in a saving account losing to inflation isn't building anything. Here is a number to sit with. The average saving account in the UK pays around 4 to 5% interest right now. UK inflation, depending on which basket you measure, sits between 3 to 5%. You are essentially running to stand still. The money you think you are saving is barely holding its value. Meanwhile, the FTSE 100, just the UK's biggest publicly traded companies, has returned an average of roughly 7 to 8% per year over the past 3 decades, including crashes, crises, and recessions. The difference between keeping money in cash versus investing it in the market is, over 20 years, the difference between tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. I don't say that to intimidate. I say it because the gap between someone who is financially free and someone who isn't is often not income. It's whether they understood compounding early enough to let it work. Albert Einstein, and yes, I know this quote gets used a lot, but hear me out because here is a layer most people miss. Allegedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he actually said it or not, the mathematics behind it are genuinely staggering. Here is a specific example. 2 people start investing at different ages. The first person starts at 25, invests £200 a month and stops at 35. 10 years. Then they never touch it again. The second person starts at 35 and invests £200 a month all the way to 65. 30 years. They invest 3 times as long, but because of compounding, the first person who invested for just 10 years ends up with more money at 65. Let that sink in. Time in the market beats amount invested. And the tragedy is that the middle class was never properly taught this. Not in school, not by the government, because financially dependent citizens are more economically useful to a system built on consumption and debt than financially independent ones. Now I want to introduce you to a framework that I genuinely believe is the missing middle piece between understanding the problem and actually solving it. Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad in 1997, and despite its controversy, one concept from that book has stood up to serious scrutiny: the difference between assets and liabilities. Kiyosaki defines an asset as something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out. By that definition, and this one stings, most of what middle class is told to aspire to is actually a liability. Your primary home, if you are paying a mortgage, is a liability until it's paid off. Your leased car is a liability. Your subscriptions are liabilities. Now, none of these are automatically bad choices. You need a place to live, you might need a car, but the question to ask yourself regularly is, what percentage of your income is going towards things that build your net worth versus things that drain it? Most people have never done that calculation honestly. When you do it for the first time, it's uncomfortable, and then it becomes the most useful piece of information you have ever had. So what does the exit strategy actually look like? Not moving to Mexico, not quitting everything. The real exit is built in phases, and it starts wherever you are right now. The first phase is stabilization. You build a buffer. 3 to 6 months of living expenses held separately, not to be touched except in a genuine emergency. This is not a wealth building tool. This is protection. It's what stops an unexpected car repair or a job loss from wiping you out completely. Research by the Urban Institute showed that households with even £500 in an emergency fund were significantly less likely to fall into poverty after a financial shock than those with no buffer at all. £500. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is direction. Once you have the buffer, every additional pound you were spending on consumption that didn't add value to your life, subscriptions you forgot about you had, meals out you didn't actually enjoy, the slightly nicer version of something you only use occasionally, those gets redirected into an investment account. You don't need to be a stock picker. You don't need to understand derivatives. A simple index fund that tracks the broad market does the job, with lower fees and better long-term performance than most active managed funds. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, demonstrated this conclusively. Over long time horizons, low-cost index funds outperform the majority of professional fund managers. Not sometimes, most of the time. Phase 3 is what I call income architecture. This is where you start building a second layer of income. Not to replace your job immediately, but to reduce your total dependency on it. That might be rental income, freelance work in your professional field, content creation, a small online business, or dividends from a growing investment portfolio. The goal is not to get rich overnight. The goal is to build what Nassim Taleb, the statistician and risk analyst who wrote The Black Swan, called asymmetric upside. You reduced your downside exposure, one job, one income, one point of failure, while quietly building multiple smaller things that compound upward over time. Here is what none of this requires: a windfall, an inheritance, a genius idea, or a side hustle that goes viral. It requires the disciplined application of basic financial principles applied consistently over time. That's not glamorous. That's not a TED talk, but it's the actual mechanism by which ordinary people with jobs, families, mortgages, bills, build real financial independence. Not by winning the game they rigged, by playing a different one entirely. If this video made you think differently about where your money is actually going, drop a comment below and tell me. Which stage are you at right now? Stabilization, redirection, or are you already building that second income layer? I read every single comment and I want to know where you are starting from. And if you found genuine value here, share it with someone who needs it. Not just a like, a share. That's how we build a community of people who are actually working on this together. Subscribe if you haven't already, because next week we are going somewhere that might surprise you. This is Mr. Financial Mindset. I'm Muzaffar Teja, reminding you, you weren't born to pay bills and die. You were born to build something that outlasts the system that designed to keep you dependent. I'll see you in the next one.